Hello everyone and welcome to another Digimon review video. In this video I'm going to be going over and reviewing the good, the bad and the other of the Digimon Vital Bracelet release. I'm going to be talking about a little bit about the Digivice V as well as the original, but more or less they're very much the same. I have done a video about the differences between them, that being that the Digivice V is the same but with a lot of quality of life improvements, so I'll be mentioning all those. And of course, as with all my other review videos, I'll be giving my scores out of 10 for both enjoyment and ease of use. Also, while I haven't received the other Vital Bracelet series, that being Ultraman and Kamen Rider, my understanding is that the Vital Bracelet series, all of the different toys, they're more or less the same in functionality, it's just in terms of the characters that you get. So I'm sure this can be applied to any of the Vital Bracelets that either are releasing, have released, or any more that will be released in the future. Of course, if I'm wrong there, I'll be doing a follow-up video with this in face and thumbnails of me apologising or something. I don't know. That's what people do on YouTube, right? Apology videos? I'm still new to this. But in any case, let's get started with the good. So it's an enjoyable combination of a Digimon virtual pet and Digimon pedometer Digivice, like the quest-based toys that you would shake or wear on your belt, and you would accumulate steps to defeat, to battle and go through this map, and you would have to, the step count would have to reach 0. Those were really fun and I grew up with them and I loved them. And this is a nice sort of combination between that and a Vital Bracelet, a Digivice toy and a virtual pet. And I really do appreciate the Vital Bracelet for doing that. Of course, it's not a standard typical virtual pet and I can't really call it a virtual pet. It's more of like a virtual companion with the fact that it's fairly easy to look after, but in any case, it's a nice combination between the two, and it's a nice way to gamify fitness, which I'm a big fan of. There's also a pretty fun app where you can fight against or alongside other people and their Digimon online. And you can also store Digimon on the app. So while you only can have 2 Digimon stored on the Vital Bracelet, you can have much more stored on the app. So you don't have to just delete them whenever you raise them, you can have them in the app for the use in raid battles or in the PvP arena battles, or just to have them there to keep them there so you don't have to delete them. It's a nice sort of mechanic there. There's also the raid battles which I mentioned, and these are all on the app, and these events are fairly fun and they help you engage with a community of other Digimon fans worldwide, and that's kind of nice. And it's also kind of exciting to have something that's limited time every month and it's a new Digimon, and if you rank a certain percentage you get like a little banner to use in the app for your profile, so that's pretty exciting and I like that. Something I really appreciate about the Vital Bracelet is that you don't really need to put that much effort into it, and you can kind of raise it fairly passively with only maybe checking it a few times a day to get in your battles or trophies that you need for the evolution requirements. In terms of the evolution requirements, you can't actually evo fail like you can on other virtual pets. So usually, if the time that's given to achieve an evolution, if that time passes and you don't have the requirements, your Digimon doesn't evolve. But on the Vital Bracelet, it actually, if you don't meet any of the requirements and your Digimon doesn't evolve, the timer resets back to the start. So you only have to wait that time period again to get another chance to evolve, and it keeps on resetting in that way. So you can really just keep an evolution off until then. You can also cancel out of evolutions by pressing and holding down the bottom button while it's evolving if you either don't want it to evolve or if you haven't met the requirements. This will of course reset the timer back to the start again, but it's a better way of just, instead of just getting an evolution that you don't want, or if you just want to hang out with Palmon all day, that's fine, you can do that. There's also adventure missions, and they remind me so much of the Digivice quest-based toys that I mentioned earlier. On the adventure missions, you start a map with a step count at the top that you have to reach. And once you've accumulated that many steps, you have to fight a boss in order to proceed to the next level. And that's pretty cool, and I like that. It makes me feel like the Digimon is actually walking alongside me. I'm a big fan of that, so that's kind of cool. Of course, there's also other missions, so normal missions, which are sort of randomly chosen throughout the day, and you only get one of them. and it can be win this many times or battle this many times, but you can only do the once for that allotment of trophies. There's also hard missions, which require you to squat, crunch, punch, or dash, and those refresh every day, but you get all 4 of them. And that's kind of another way to gamify it, but again, that's sort of the only times you would really be checking your vital bracelet throughout the day. Otherwise, you just wear it on your wrist, and it reads your heart rate, but it dies if you have it off your wrist for like more than 24 hours, which I don't, because I just wear it on the wrist, and when it goes to sleep, I put it on my table to charge, or just on my table for me to pick up again, because that's what's kind of nice about it, especially with the Digivice V, where you can actually put to sleep at any time. On the first version of the Vital Bracelet, it would have set sleep times like with other virtual pets, but the Digivice V implemented the functionality that you have to actually put it to sleep itself. So you press these 2 buttons on the side, it goes to sleep, and then the vitals won't decrease, and you can leave it on your table or charge it or whatever. Another nice thing is that on the original Vital Bracelet, if your Digimon was asleep, the evolution counter did not tick down, but on the Digivice V, if it's asleep, the counter still counts. So you can actually just put it to sleep whenever you've met the requirements, just so you can let it sit there and have that timer tick down without actually having to wear it or look at it. And that's another reason why it's kind of easy. And especially why the Digivice V has a lot of these different improvements. However, it does make it feel a little bit less like a virtual pet in that way, because the virtual pet element sort of requires it goes to sleep at a certain time. This one, you're just putting it to bed whenever you want, and if you don't put it to bed, it just doesn't sleep. So you can just wear it all the time, but there's no reason, once you have the evolution requirements, to just not keep it on sleep all the time. There's also the DIM cards, which are a great alternative to having multiple versions with different characters on each version, and this makes it easier to raise everything or collect everything if you are a collector. So it can also be as cheap or as expensive as the customer wants. So if somebody only wants a DIM card with a very specific Digimon on it, they only really have to buy the one DIM card instead of buying multiple versions that have different Digimon on them. And that's a nice sort of mechanic, especially if, not everyone wants to buy all the DIM cards. I will, because I'm crazy, but not everyone needs to in this case, and that's something I like about it. It, of course, can't run without a DIM card. It's not like the Tamagotchi Smart, which has basically everything on it, and the accessory cards only really add and unlock extra characters and different items to use and backgrounds and stuff. But that's kind of cool. I like that, but it can't run without at least one DIM card, and that's why they're packaged with them. The Tama Smart isn't packaged with any smart cards unless it's one of the special versions. The other thing, and this is something that it probably seems like a really minor thing, but it's probably one of my favourite things about the Vital Bracelet, and it's the fact that the characters available are so vast, and there are so many underrated Digimon that are finally getting their chance to shine. And I really appreciate that. Of course, we still have Agumon, we still have Vmon, we still have all the Digimon that you'd expect, but we're also getting ones that you may not expect, like we've had Darulumon, we've had Jumojimon, we've had Digimon that may have not had as much love as, say, Agumon or Vmon has. And that's something else I like. And we're also getting the new Digimon, of course. We're getting the Tamers Digimons. We're getting a lot of just this huge array of Digimon, so everyone is happy. And I like that. And of course, and this is something I mentioned in the Tamagotchi Smart review video, is the fact that it's USB rechargeable and the battery life isn't too bad. You will want to charge it overnight anyway, so it doesn't seem as, it's like 2 days, maybe you can probably push 3 days, but you'd probably be best to just wear it, have it on your nightstand for one night, and then wear it the next day, and then charge it overnight that night. So it comes with the same sort of charging cable as the Tamagotchi Smart comes with, but of course this is a fairly common connector. My Kindle has the same charge port, so I can just use a longer cable if I need to, but most of the time this one's nice because you can sort of put it in your pocket or put it in your bag, and it's fairly small, so you can sort of charge your Vital Bracelet whenever you're out and about, and that makes it kind of easy. So I really do appreciate that. The fact that you don't have to change batteries as much, or at all, you just have to charge it, is kind of a plus for me, and I mentioned that as well in my Tamagotchi Smart review video. Now onto the bad, and The first point I'm going to say here is kind of like more of a discussion point, but the inclusion of an app is honestly a double-edged sword. It's great while the app is there. It adds all this other content. You can store your Digimon, you can participate in raid battles, you can battle, you can send over missions from the app to your Vital Bracelet and do those missions and then send it back and you get experience points, you level up your Tamer rank. It's got a bunch of different features and it adds to the gameplay of the Vital Bracelet immensely. However, once the Vital Bracelet's not being sold anymore and when it's no longer used as much, or if Bandai want to move on to the next app that they want to use, obviously the servers are just going to be shut down. And that's a little bit sad. And it's not like, that's just not me guessing that might happen. That's something that will happen. And we've seen Bandai do this before with, for example, the Tamagotchi Meets has an app, or had an app. And on this app, you could breed with other Tamagotchis to mix your genetics. And that was really cool. You could also play games, get exclusive items. And it was fairly cool there. And you could send up online, I'm on the app now, so I'm accepting proposals so we can share genetics. And it was really cool. However, that app got recently shut down because of the release of I'm guessing the release of the Tamagotchi Smart, even though the Tamagotchi Smart doesn't actually have an app, so it's nothing that's really replacing it, the app still got shut down. Because it has been about 5 years, I think, since the Meets first release. I think it was like a 2017 release. And that's going to happen to the Vital Bracelet. So what will happen to a lot of the functionality? You won't be able to get missions from the app. You won't be able to store your Digimon. You'll be limited to having 2 Digimon. So if you have like 100 Digimon stored on the app, you are going to have to kill 98 of them and just transfer them back to your Vital Bracelet. Or you can buy like 20 Vital Bracelets and then have 40 of them being able to be stored on your Vital Bracelet. So that's a little bit of a shame. So it means that a lot of that functionality will go. There's no offline version. One day the servers will be shut down. You can't use the app without the internet connection because you need to be connected to the servers. So a lot of the functionality of the Vital Bracelet will actually die with the app. And I don't think I'd be as interested in the Vital Bracelet if I didn't have the app. Because, as I said, that is like 50% of the functionality. And it's so much easier to get the trophies from the app rather than just waiting every day. You would ever fail a lot and have to reset that time back to the start because you can't get that many trophies in a day. There's only so many trophies you can get in a day. The app gives you extra ones. So that's a long time away probably, especially with how many Vital Bracelet things they're releasing. But it's still going to happen within a few years. And a few years isn't that long. Like, the Meets, I feel like only just came out a few years ago, and the app shut down. The American app, which is for the Tamagotchi On, is still up, and I don't believe there's any news about shutting that down. But that too will be shut down too, one day. No news about it, but it will happen. And that's really sad. That's a lot of the functionality that's just gone there. And in general, I would honestly struggle to get trophies if it weren't for the app. There's not that many trophies that the game gives you every day. You kind of have to use the app. So the fact that it more or less requires you to have a compatible phone is a little bit of a negative. I have a compatible phone, but if I didn't, I would probably have to do what I've done with the Tamagotchis that require infrared or NFC, and, well, a special NFC connection, I think some of the phones have, and buy like a spare phone that's only to use with this app. And that's a little bit annoying. Like, I'm glad that I have a compatible phone, but a lot of the requirements, again, the same thing applies for the app dies one day, and, well, when it dies one day, is if you don't have a compatible phone, you're going to be missing out on a lot of that functionality. So all of this means that the Vital Bracelet has a limited lifespan of enjoyment because the app will very, very much, more than likely, not always forever be there. And that's a little bit of a shame, unless they release like an offline version, but I honestly doubt that. And another negative point is the fact that it doesn't feel as much of a virtual pet as it does feel like a Digivice. It's not as immersive, and I don't really care for as much as I do for a normal virtual pet, as silly as it probably sounds. it doesn't feel as real, and my connection with the character doesn't really exist as much as it does for a typical virtual pet, which I'm feeding and caring for, and if it gets sick and cleaning its poo and looking after it. And I'm not really looking after my Digivice V or my Vital Bracelet. It's just sitting on my arm, just kind of growing, and that's it. Like, I do like the gamified fitness, and I do like the trophies and the missions there, but more or less, like, it's only a few times a day, and then I kind of just leave it to sit there every other part of the day. And with the Digivice V, as I said, I can just, once I've met the evolution requirements, just have it on my desk in sleep mode, and the timer ticks down, and I don't lose any vitals for it. And then another negative, which I feel like is one that I've heard, well, the last two negatives are ones that I've heard both a lot, especially since release, and that's the band. Now, the Digivice V band I don't feel like falls off as much as the first version of the Vital Bracelet. It feels a lot more secure, and the DIM card slot feels a lot more secure too. But with the first edition of the Vital Bracelet, so like the version special, it just sort of fell off my wrist one day and was lost forever. And that was the first and only time it had fallen off, and I'd had it already for about 4 months. So it will just kind of fall off. And I haven't noticed that with the Digivice V yet. It does feel a little bit more secure, but that's kind of a negative. It feels like they didn't really put as much effort into the band that they could have. And it required me to, and this is my replacement first version Vital Bracelet, it was the black version originally, it requires you to kind of be crafty and print out adapters that will work with every other smartwatch band that you can just buy off eBay for $2. So it requires you to be a little bit crafty. And then another negative is that, and I know this is because it's a cheaper heart rate monitor than, let's say, where's my Fitbit gone? Oh, I was charging it. So it's a lot more bulky than the Fitbit that I have, and obviously that's because this is a $400 activity watch, and this is like a $50 activity watch. So yes, I know that it's because the Vital Bracelet has a lot less, like, a lot cheaper parts than a Fitbit, for example, or any other fitness watch, but it's just so bulky. And the heart rate monitor is just so bulky, and I guess it's also because there's a DIM card slot there and the charging port, but it feels so bulky, and I don't like wearing it out in public. Even if I take off the other watch so I don't look silly, I still feel like it is a toy. I'm not going to pretend that it's not a toy. It is definitely a toy, but my gosh, does it look like a toy. Especially the version special, which was just, I wouldn't have bought the version special if it didn't come with the Ancient Warriors DIM, by the way, but it just was bright coloured. I kind of want it to be kind of discreet, but it wasn't. It's just this bulky thing. And then lastly, my other points. So, and this kind of, I guess, ties from my last negative, and that was, it would be kind of great if you could detach it from the band without modding it. Like, I know it doesn't have a heart rate monitor in it, but this Tamagotchi Smart, the fact that you can remove the band and not wear it, makes me love this so much more than if I had to wear it on my wrist all day. I know there's a heart rate monitor, and it needs to read heart rate, but I wish there was just a normal mode where it doesn't, like, put your heart rate super high, it doesn't put it, like, super low, it just kind of puts it in the middle, and it lets you take it off the band, but that is also, like, a good percentage of the functionality of the Vital Bracelet, so that's kind of like a weird one there, but it's so bulky. My other sort of miscellaneous point is that, I kind of maybe touched on this earlier, but the missions for trophies are actually quite fun. I actually really like these, kind of wish that there were more. So you get the 4 hard missions a day, so the squat, crunch, punch, dash, and there are the missions from the app that require you to battle a certain amount of times in an hour, or this one's really hard, you have to run on the spot or on a treadmill, run 6,000 steps in an hour, or win a certain amount of times in an hour, or increase your vitals a certain amount in an hour, which that one's probably the easiest one because you can just battle and that increases your vitals for it. However, the fact is that if you have already hit the vitals cap, you can't actually increase your vitals anymore. It says plus 100, but that doesn't count towards the mission, which is kind of a little bit annoying, but I just make sure I do it when I have lower vitals, and I'm definitely not close to hitting that cap. So those are the missions, and I kind of wish that there were more of them that focused on fitness, like the hard missions, and I wish that there were more of them, especially in the fact that if you don't have access to the app, you can only get 5 or 6 trophies a day, and some Digimon require 20 or more trophies to evolve. So if you don't have the trophies, then how are you meant to get them in, like, some evolution periods like 24 hours? How are you meant to get 20 plus trophies in 24 hours if you're only given like 5 or 6 a day and you're not using the app? It's kind of a weird thing there. Also, the majority of battles are required from the NFC. So if you have an NFC phone, that's really easy. Or if you just have your Nintendo Switch and have it in like the amiibo reading mode, you can get the battles that way. You can also approach like the turnstiles at a train station or NFC pads on vending machines. But that would look kind of weird if you were staying there like for 10 battles in a row. That'd be weird. So the only way to get battles is to have the adventure mission if you don't have any NFC devices and you can't use the app, which would also count as an NFC device. So there's just some weirdness there. I wish that it gave you more trophies and more ways to battle than just using the phone. It just seems like it's a little bit annoying, especially for, again, the later stages where they require you to have 20 or more trophies, which the game does not, the toy does not give you 20 or more trophies a day. It gives you 5. And God forbid if you have multiple Digimon running at once, as in 2. But that's sort of like a few small discussion points there. Next, we have the verse dims, which seem a little bit fairly pointless because I've not used them. So maybe you have, and let me know in the comments if you've used them and you love the verse dims. But I don't know anybody else with a Vital Bracelet, but I guess they're a cool idea. You put your Digimon or character on a verse dim, you plug it into a friend's Vital Bracelet and the two will fight, and then you put the verse dim back in your Vital Bracelet and it returns the Digimon. If it's been more than 15 minutes, your Digimon will just return naturally and then the verse dim will just have a ghost on it, I guess. So they're kind of cool in theory, but I've never actually used them in practice. It just seems like another part to lose, to be honest. But again, it's a nice sort of idea, but how many people do you know that have a Vital Bracelet and you're not allowed to include yourself if you have 3 Vital Bracelets? But I guess that's one way you can get battles. But again, it's weird. And then I've heard that the VB series app for the use of the Ultraman and the Kamen Rider Vital Bracelets doesn't have Bandai ID Sync like the Digimon VB Lab app. So if you lose your phone or reset your phone, you lose any progress that you have on the app. And this would be a bad point, but I can't really confirm or deny it yet, and it's just what I've heard on the internet of various people reporting this. And I don't have either of these VBs yet. I will soon, but not at the moment. But honestly, this seems like something that should be fixed. It seems like an oversight. They forgot to tick enable Bandai Link. It just seems like a weird one there, but I just thought I'd mention it in any case. And then lastly, let's go over my ratings for enjoyment and ease of use. So both of these have the same scores, and when the Vital Bracelet was first released, I would have given the Digimon VB a 10 out of 10 for both, but now that the first version is sort of a little bit older now, and of course since we had the Digivice V, I'd give the first version a 9 out of 10 for both ease of use and enjoyment, and I would give a 10 out of 10 for both for the Digivice V, on the base it has a lot of improvements. However, it's a 10 out of 10 with kind of an asterisk with, at the moment, for me, it's got everything that it needs to and I'm enjoying it. But once the app dies, or if I have to use a phone that doesn't have an NFC, and I don't have any NFC devices, it would be a lot less. It's very much dependent on the fact that you have the phone and have the app. And also, the app was not legally available in Australia until like a month or so ago. So that's something else. Like I had to use QApp to download the APK for the VB Lab app because it just wasn't available in my country. So that's kind of another annoying thing. You have to kind of go through hurdles to get this app depending on where you are in the world. That's annoying. And again, a lot of the functionality comes from the app. So my review of it is based on the fact that it works well for my life because I get fairly busy and can't often afford to really look at a virtual pet much throughout the day. So I'm enjoying it. It's very easy, especially with the existence of the apps, and it's more or less perfect for me as it doesn't require too much work or attention throughout the day, which means that I can be busy at work without hurting my precious little virtual friend. But, of course, this is a very much a me review. I gave it a 10 out of 10, but I have listed all the reasons why it could potentially not be a 10 out of 10. If you don't have the app, if you don't have a phone, then I definitely wouldn't recommend getting a Vital Bracelet because at that point you could just get a Fitbit and then also have a virtual pet and you'd probably get the same amount of enjoyment, maybe even more. So it's kind of a 10 out of 10, but with definitely huge asterisks next to both. But in any case, that's the end of my little review for the Vital Bracelet. I know it's been a long time coming. I wanted to kind of get this out earlier, but then news kept on coming out for the Vital Bracelet. The app came out, the raids came out. We had more Vital Bracelets released. We had the Digivice V. So I kind of wanted to compile all my thoughts about it into this one video rather than releasing a video on its when it first released with sort of like limited information, especially when we didn't have battles on the app yet and when we didn't have that many raid battles. So that's basically all my thoughts that I have on the Vital Bracelet. Let me know what you think about the Vital Bracelet. Do you agree with me? Do you think that it's a perfect Vital Bracelet for you, or perfect virtual pet for you rather? And would you also cry when the VB Lab app eventually shuts down? So let me know all that in the comments and I will see you on the next video. Bye!